Hello and welcome everyone to another Sales Hacker webinar. I'm seeing everyone kind of trickle in now, so thank you so much for joining us. I know there's a lot going on in the world, so we're very grateful that you're hanging out with us, and hopefully you'll learn a few things. I'm certainly excited for this conversation because I love these ones when we get to share actual new research, some hard new metrics, benchmarks. It's really cool. So what we're going to be talking about is the state of sales enablement in 2020. And before I do introduce my awesome guest, who I'm excited to catch up with, it's always fun. We kind of people you haven't seen in a long time. You just get to hang out and catch up in a live environment and talk shop a little bit. A few housekeeping items. As always, when we do these are all recorded. So without fail, people usually ask me that at least a couple emails. Do not worry. If you have to jump off for whatever reason, the kids are crying, you got to feed the dog. I know you're working from home, so there's a whole slew of new challenges. Go and take care of it. We'll send this out within about 24 hours. And then second, kind of a casual Q&A style. We do have a little bit of a presentation, and we're going to be sharing some hard new research, as I mentioned, but these are always way more enjoyable for myself, for John, when we kind of know who we're hanging out with. If you guys are, asking questions throughout, it makes it just that much more enjoyable. So there's a chat feature at the bottom. If you'll introduce your name, your title, what company you're with, just say hello, so we know who we're hanging out with. And secondly, you will find a Q&A feature. It's different than the chat. I'll be kind of monitoring that and being the voice of the community. So if you have questions related to what we're talking about, please hop in, ask your questions. I'll probably tease a few of them throughout. And then if there's any sort of unrelated questions, we'll get to them at the end. But yeah, please chime in. Very excited for this. That's the boring stuff out of the way. Without further ado, I want to introduce my excellent guest. I'm joined by Jon Perera, who's the CMO over at Highspot. Jon, welcome, man.
Scott, it is great to see you again. It's been a while, and great to join all of you in the Sales Hacker community.
Yeah, we're lucky to have you, and I'm just excited to dive into this data, man, that you guys have found. Obviously, sales enablement is just this. I think we've both been extremely lucky to be part of this kind of sales technology, specifically sales enablement kind of explosion that's happened in a really good way. People are paying so much attention to this category right now, and I'm excited just to dive right into it. So let's get a move on really quickly. A couple shout outs. Thanks, Mackie, hanging out with us, Rebecca, Eric, Alex, Kat Meyer, Kathy, Justin, Maggie Callahan, Jarvis, Tim, Brady, Chad, Max. List goes on and on. Thank you so much for hanging out with us again. We appreciate it, and we're excited for this conversation. But Jon, let's kick this off.
One of the things we might do just to kick it off, just as I get into the research, is just do, we've got all the information in the chat window, but I just wonder, what if we got a better sense of everybody who's here, what role they're in? We can ask them about some of the things going on, and that'll maybe give you and I a quick sense of who all is here. And so
Perfect.
Here's a quick poll that which best describes your job.
Perfect.
Looks like a lot of sales management and leadership on the call with us.
That's awesome.
Nice to see
all
healthy
amount
of leaders. One more second. Looks like 60% voted.
Perfect.
Awesome. Thank you for that. That'll help Scott and I know who's on the call. Great to see the representation across AEs and SDRs and Sales Enablement Pro Suite. And then just one more thought. This is that Scott and I have some ideas on this. Love your perspective. Maybe launch that second poll.
Let's do it. All right, this one I am super curious to find out. So, relative to COVID-19, when do you think we'll go back to normal, the new abnormal? in terms of work, the office, in-person events, without skewing the results. Jon, what's sort of your guess that you think people are going to think, and then maybe your personal opinion?
I think most companies are looking at the earliest of summer of 2021. I think we all saw the
Yeah.
announcement from Google the other week. We're seeing what's going on with regards to the vaccine, and there just isn't anybody really planning on going back to the office before then, or at large.
Mm.
I think that what's interesting to me is like there's 6 people, 9% who are saying here in the survey results, we're not going back. And those are like 2 kinds of companies. So either the company are like, we were always virtual, this is our normal forever, and we work best this way. Or it's companies that are like, you know what? This is working for us, and we're going to keep on keeping on. So, but I'm surprised at the optimists in the room. Love that, and I hope you're right.
Totally. Yeah. A few quick thoughts on that. So, I was lucky enough to have a conversation with a gentleman named Dr. Gleb Saporsky. He's one of the leading behavioral psychologists, and he's a disaster avoidance expert. So he actually helps Fortune 100 companies navigate disasters. And obviously, COVID's been the biggest one that I can remember in my career. And he's kind of on the never train. Is, we will get back to a semblance of normal, but not quite what we were used to for a very long time. Calls it an optimism bias, which we all kind of share. I certainly do. I'd love to get back to it, but anyway, my 2 cents there. Let's get into where this research came from that we're going to be talking to today.
Yeah, so similar to Sales Hacker, Highspot has a sister organization, Sales Enablement Pro. We recently did a survey around sales enablement, particularly in the time of COVID and work from home, and what's changing and what are the patterns in terms of win rates and helping AEs win. Ran it around the world, just completed the research. We're rolling it out with communities like you. So that's a little bit about the research. And I'll just jump in the next slide to what are some of the key findings. And we looked really hard in the research. So we spoke to account executives, sales managers, really just the people that are on our call right now, and said, what's helping you win? And we learned a couple of things. First of all, companies that are using a sales enablement platform, doesn't have to be Highspot, are seeing higher win rates. The second thing, if I go to that, is that when that sales enablement team reports into a revenue leader, and by the way, I see it all. They either report into a marketer, sales ops, or directly to a chief sales officer. But when they report into the head of sales, they see higher win rates. And the last one that I think is really interesting is a shift that sales enablement used to be about, hey, let's get the AEs on the front line rocking and rolling, and the account executives. And now, and I think it's part of COVID, Scott, that everybody is saying we have to keep the customers that we have today really delighted. So there's some ahas that sales enablement teams are now reaching out to client success, account management, and others. I'm just noticing a comment that says, that just came in, customer retention is 100%. Like, I don't know about you, Scott, but like at our company, certainly one of the things that we did in the last 2-3 months was say, job number 0, 1, 2, and 3 is keep the customers that we have happy, because they're going to, the more that we can do for them in this tough time, the better advocates they're going to become for us over time.
Yeah. Yeah. This is super interesting and very on kind of trend. A lot of conversations I'm having right now are on this idea of customer retention, also the growing just importance of success support and how much resources are going to go into that over the next few years. We kind of had this MarTech blow up and then sales tech blow up. I think the next one naturally is going to be kind of success tech, which a lot of sales tech can kind of bleed into, of course. So this is super interesting and something very tangible that if you're an enablement leader on the phone or even an AE, and you don't have this kind of level of support for that post-sales role, certainly something that you should start at least getting that conversation going, because the data doesn't lie. This is a huge one too, reporting to a revenue leader. How many times people talk about the structure of sales enablement is crazy. And John, I got to. What are all the ways you've seen it? Because there's so many different ways, and it doesn't seem like there is a stake in the ground best practice yet. This is very interesting, and I'm happy to know this because now I can have a more informed answer when people ask me. What have you seen out there? And then maybe if we would put a stake in the ground today, how do you think it should be structured?
So we see a 40-40-20 split. 40% of the time, sales enablement reports into marketing. And you can say that makes a ton of sense because a marketer is getting all this core content, battle cards, case studies. How do we help deposition the competitor? How do we delight the customer? They're creating all that stuff. They want to get it out to the front line and really have the sales enablement be right next to the creation of the content and the training. I would say the shift I've seen lately is the 40% that's reporting directly into sales. And the head of sales now has a broader remit than maybe 2 years ago. And it comes back to the last point we were just making. They're thinking about account management, customer success, retention, upsell, cross-sell. And they need that enablement team to report in close and direct so that whatever strategic initiative they're trying to land, they've got the go-to team to make it happen. The other 20% of the time is what I call just mixed bag. Anybody knows, it's all over the place. We've seen sales enablement reporting directly into the CEO. By the way, that's what we do at Highspot. We obviously should do something like that, given the importance of it. We've seen it report to COO or sales operations lead. And I think that the right answer is where can you best align your company prior initiatives with the sales enablement team that makes it happen? Like who's that executive sponsor that's really going to clear the air for that team to do their best work? And so it depends on like, where do you have that?
Yeah, that's super, super interesting. Where in your eyes, again, this has come from me being curious, is where does RevOps fit into this mix? We've kind of seen this new RevOps title. Many people are adopting it. Where would that fit in that structure?
I typically see it going direct to the head of sales. And just as context, I'll give you an example. We actually have a revenue strategy team at Highspot that reports directly to our CEO because it's that pivotal to the heartbeat of our company. And the Rev Strat thinks about RevOps, marketing ops, all of the core data of our customers, and enablement. And so that the interesting trend here that we're starting to see is the marriage of enablement teams and RevOps teams. Because if you've got the data, the telemetry with the ability to do playbooks and training and great content and the analytics of all of that, that can become kind of a secret weapon for a lot of heads of sales moving forward. Mm-hmm. So super cool.
Good to know. I love that. That sounds like a fun team to be on. Revenue strategy, reporting directly to the CEO. And then last point is, the leveraging sales enablement platforms plus 7 points. That's huge. People are doing that, are winning more. Highspot, you guys have a the lens into this. What percentage of sales teams right now do you think have a sales enablement platform in place? Because there's a lot of room for growth in this area. You and I, are in SaaS technology, so that's pretty much everyone has one. But there's all these other industries. How much of the market do you think has a sales enablement platform right now?
I think we're early days. In the United States, we're probably looking at 30 to 35% of sales teams have an enablement platform where their content, their training, like sales coaching, it's all in one with integrated analytics, and you can figure out like what's working, what's not working. And that's why you see the higher win rates. But many, many industries across the US are slower moving, and they're stuck on like SharePoint and OneDrive and Dropbox, and reps in the field are like, I don't know, I'm going to use this deck because so-and-so over there said it was the best one to use to win this deal. And, if you can marry the power of like cloud and machine learning and have all that stuff working for you, saying, boy, to move these deals forward in this industry, with this kind of customer set, that's magic. So I think we're still, it's one of these like craziest markets where I've never seen so much demand. and the adoption cycle is like tech kind of through and through, but other industries slower moving than I've ever seen before, which is totally wild.
Yeah. I'm so excited for kind of the next wave of seeing those industries adopt it, because there's the the competitive advantage that's going to be gained if you bring something like this into, a true sales enablement platform into an industry where no one else is using one. You could wipe out a whole industry. But anyway, that's a topic for another day. Let's keep it rolling, man. This is super interesting.
Yeah, so we went into the data and we went into all the verbatims, and I'd say there were three key themes that emerged. And so number one is every single sales team pretty much on the earth, starting around the first or second week of March, had to start working from home. And they all had a sales kickoff plan. They had a whole lineup of here's how we're going to do our sales trainings in the classrooms and connect people together. And the shift is obviously, no, we're doing it from home and we need a platform to do it. We need new ways of thinking, new ways to connect each other up. So virtual onboarding is like a full-blown thing where, everybody wants to know, like, show me what good looks like. I want to know the best practices for my company to take advantage of. Quick thought on that one, by the way. Like, we were talking to an account the other day where their sales training in North America, they used to have a North America team and they would do their sales training. Europe would do theirs, and then Latin America and Asia would do theirs. But because of the time zone, their East Coast team in North America is now doing virtual enablement with their Western European team. So they're sharing all kinds of ideas together they never did before COVID because they're doing it virtually.
Yeah.
West Coast team is working with the Asia Pacific sub. So like really cool stuff coming out of that. The second thing is what we just talked about. Where should it report and why? We covered that. And then this last one was it's all about the customer experience, customer retention, cross-sell and upsell. How do I do advocacy? And like it, with sales enablement, you could say, look, 99% of the energy of all the vendors in the category were focused on the SDR, the BDR, or the account executive, or the sales manager. And you got to do that to win. And what's happening right now is saying we need that focus to go on our client success managers, on our account managers, anybody that's having a customer facing conversation, they need to be equipped just like our AEs do. So three really cool trends that came out of all of this.
Yeah, that's huge, especially the first one right now with this. I think of my personal career and starting as a young seller and being in the office. And I remember, one of the things that brought me a decent amount of success was just always having my head up and my ears like switched on. And I would hear other people's calls and things that they were like saying or things that they would use. And that would help me. And I would just take that soundbite and like put it in. And now that we're all from home, you need to find ways to capture, the sound bites, the good email, all the things together. And I love this idea of now, if you're doing it properly and have virtual enablement, it's actually not we're not downgrading from that. We're accelerating that because now you can have mind share across your global teams and not just the people that maybe you sit by or your enablement leader at your one office. So that's pretty cool.
Seems like it's, just in time tech, like there was a comment that just came through that said, look, one of the things we're seeing at our company is sales cycles are getting longer. Buyers are spending more time. They need more proof, more evidence, and we need more help from marketing. And like, by the way, I get beat up by my head of sales all the time. Like, hey, John, glad you're there. I need 10 more case studies, 10 more switchers, 10 more ROI. Show me the proof that I can take this very tough customer base, and I need it yesterday. And, like if you can have some kind of a platform that allows you to get that out there faster, better, that's awesome. And then I think the flip side is most companies are going to go through this COVID lifetime with two things that come out of it on the other side from the world of selling. One is digital selling. Like, I just don't think we're going to be hopping on airplanes doing face-to-face customer account meetings in the same way. Minimally speaking, there'll be a 25% reduction in that because we got so good at digital selling. The other thing that we're going to take with us is the old training classroom where everybody has to jam in a room and learn something that world's over. We're going to be taking virtual enablement. And the companies that do both of those the best are the ones in 2021, 2022 are going to totally, rocket ship out of this downturn.
Hmm. Yeah, couldn't agree more. It's almost this idea of now we can have customized learning and have people learn at their own pace. That scenario that has been a long time, thousands of years of getting people on. Not everyone learns that same way. So I love this where we're headed towards, which is much more friendly to all different styles of learning, which will have a huge impact. And I want to circle back to what you said at the beginning of your sales leader always poking you for more and more stuff. And I wrote a statement the other day, basically along the lines of the only thing I see right now that's really working in this environment is social proof. So you need ways to feed that social proof like on a constant loop, right? It's not social proof from 2 years ago that's a company that kind of looks like you. It's social proof for someone we just fixed this problem or challenge with 3 weeks ago. And by the way, they're in your industry, they look exactly like you. That's how you can really, really accelerate things.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like I'll have BDRs, SDRs at my company, and they're like, Jon, you're a C-suite executive. We're trying to break through to you. How do we get your attention? And by the way, don't send me like some email or communication that has absolutely nothing to do with my industry or anything. I got one of those the other day. It's like, Dear Jon, at our firm, we're very good at athletic apparel, cosmetics, and we've done all these other things. I'm like, do your homework, please, because I'm not even going to take that call. But the calls that I take, and I mean frequently, are the ones that say, we want to connect you up with another group of CMOs in your situation so that you guys can do best practice sharing with each other. And that, Scott, is like right at the point you're saying around social proof. Like we're all in the thick of it. We're all trying to learn. None of us know the best practice. And I want to be connected with other, people that I can learn from. And so the more that you can do, sales enablement and great world-class marketing and great field marketing where you can connect people and create community, like as we're all at home, it's not a lot, or this is not the office. That's, I think, a huge opportunity for us right now.
Totally.
Oh, by the way, on your point around personalized learning, I learned a stat last night, and this came out of Harvard Business Review on this notion of lean learning. That if we teach a class and share some new information, 60% of the new information is lost if it's not used within 7 days of learning it. In other words, if we do a sales training, we train a bunch of people, and we're not immediately putting into the real world practice, it's gone. And virtual enablement and virtual training are like really big unlocks where you can do it just in time. Like I'm prepping for a customer call tomorrow, and I'm going to go compete against competitor X. Give me the training on that right now, and I'm going to go put it in action tomorrow morning. That's where learning happens right now.
Yeah. Can you repeat that? I think that was a pretty staggering stat. What was that stat again? That was,
oh my God.
Don't use it in 7%. How much is lost?
60.
Wow.
Yeah, maybe I will type a link out to this in a minute.
That would be great.
So if we keep rolling through a little bit more into the research and you kind of dig into some of these, we asked the question, well, what are the tools and technologies that really help? We've talked a little bit about sales enablement. A couple of things that also stood out, this whole notion of a sales play tool. So like everybody in the world has a different definition for what's a sales play. Marketers have one definition, frontline account executives have another, sales management. But whatever it is, like if you can write down what do you need to know, what do you need to say, what do you need to show, you need to do right now for this particular type of deal at this stage with this industry, and be able to track and measure the effectiveness of that, it's a game changer in terms of win rates. And so I'll give you an example. Like we recently did a sales play about winning in a new industry. And it's a new industry that we're getting started in. We're not exactly killing it quite yet. And we now with our platform, we're able to track how many reps are using it, how many people did the training in it, how many reps actually are following through and doing the calls and the actual outreach and all the way through, so that as a business leader, I can track, here's the play, here's the initiative, what are the actual results, what team is doing better, what team is doing worse. And so like this one really stood out to me. And I wonder, like, just Scott, with the community of leaders and Sales Hacker that you work with, and the role that you have around evangelists, like what's happening with sales plays? What do people use for it? Does this resonate? Does it not resonate?
Mm-hmm. It's funny. This is brought up because something I've been thinking a lot of lately. I advise for kind of two companies that are trying to fix this part of this problem, right? And it's this idea that a lot of the sales plays that we still use are based on like old learning, and we're not looking at the data that we can now collect with all these different sales technologies that we can use that really inform this. And when I think of sales plays, I think that the best way to think about it is it's a constant iterative process. It is never done, ever. As soon as more data comes in, you have to rework it, right? And as you're doing these plays, you're getting more and more data, and you need to collect all of that and quickly be able to iterate on it. And yeah, I think that's why a lot of people are turning to thought leaders on LinkedIn and stuff to tell me, hey, what sales plays should I run? You know, we did an interesting survey on Sales Hacker where we asked people, hey, where are you getting your buying information from? And number one was thought leaders, and number two was review sites, which is really interesting. And that's just because people, like you said, are trusting their peers more than anything. You want to learn from other people in your position, and you need a constant flow of new sales plays. That's why we've also seen an explosion of kind of sales consulting forums and now like content writers for salespeople. You know, companies like RevShop, companies like RevUp, they will actually build out all your sales sequences and plays. I think it's going to be a huge industry over the coming years. Just like what's the stat for every dollar of Salesforce ARR, $3 comes in the form of sales consulting from all these different companies. We're going to see this for sales enablement tools, sales engagement tools, and it's just going to blow up because I don't think people can get enough of these sales plays these days. That was long-winded, but I hope that was valuable.
I love your point too about iteration. When at one of my previous companies, which shall not be named, but it's quite large, maybe located in Redmond, and we,
I can guess maybe.
Yeah, we were required to build out sales plays for every product, every audience, every industry, and at the time we were asked to create a full binder, and it was like 700 pages for every single customer-facing rep at that company, about 25,000 people. Printed it all out. It literally hit everybody's desks like a week later, and it was probably out of date before it ever hit the printing press, because things had changed, new competitors had entered, we got better and faster. And if you're not using like a modern platform or tool for that, you're not competing. So if we roll forward a little bit, there's been a lot of debate around where does this enablement team, report into. And one of the interesting pieces of data was that the closer that sales enablement team, by the way, there was a comment that came through, like everybody's fighting for a piece of enablement right now. It is the hot new thing. Mm-hmm. I think it ultimately doesn't matter, Scott, where it reports into. I just want to underline that, and the 63% data point bears it out, that what does matter is strategic alignment on an initiative in particular. So it can't just be like, I think I want to do sales enablement. Where it works is when you say, you've got a leader who's like, we need to do a breakthrough on competing, or a breakthrough on cross-selling our new product launch. It's got to be like an initiative that's a company imperative. And we're not going to make our number if we don't nail it on that. And have the enablement team be tied at the hip with that leader and that initiative. That's where it really works. And by the way, thank you, Alex, for posting that HBR report. Kudos to you. By the way, you know what? I just looked at it. I was wrong. It's not 60% of the data is lost. 75% of the information is not retained. So that's
Wow.
absolutely crazy. So there's a big shift happening around enablement alignment. And if we roll forward a little bit more, um, this notion about customer experience, we talked about this a little bit earlier. Keeping your existing customers has never been more important than it is right now. It's that social proof and advocacy. What we're starting to see is more and more sales enablement organizations that are now supporting a broader set of roles. And when they do so, it has a compounding effect on that company's ability to be successful. And I'm just wondering, like, if you can, like, if you think about sales hacker and outreach, if you think about other revenue leaders that you're talking to, Scott,
Mhm.
have you seen a similar shift? Are you seeing this happening more broadly? Do you think it's more early stage?
It's certainly coming. I think we're just at the kind of precipice of this. I think it was certainly accelerated dramatically because of COVID-19, just like most things in digital transformation. But now our current customers are the most important thing that we have. And something that I'm seeing that's kind of cool is, so traditional enablement, a lot of it, is built by your marketing team, and it's their best guess at what the market is going to want, right? Based on, what you're seeing, your current customer base. When you do this kind of enablement and build materials for current customers, you have this incredible luxury of just going and asking them and saying, "Hey, what would make your life infinitely easier? What could we do? What asset, if I gave it to you, would change the game?" And they'll tell you, and you can go build customized content, hyper customized, that is going to make them successful, going to make them stickier, and hopefully you can repurpose it for multitude of different clients. But that's something really cool I see in this new form of enablement. You can just ask. It sounds so simple, but we didn't always have that luxury when we were building it for net new customers.
I would say what I'm hearing from my head of account management, Highspot, is, hey, marketing team, give us those assets that allow us to create a personalized one-to-one story to the existing customer on the
Hmm.
exact value that we're providing to them, and do it
Hmm.
quickly. And like,
Yeah.
this is an area where I think I've got B2B has got a lot to learn from B2C. Like, I got this, this is not really relevant anymore, but I got an email at the beginning of January from Alaska Airlines. And it said, hey, John, last year you flew this many segments, this many miles. We've learned that you like aisle seats more than middle seats. Here's 5 ways that you can take advantage of your status. And it was this personalized, beautiful email to me. And in the B2B world, we need to arm our account managers to deliver that to their customers. And it's one of the big things that we're hearing. When you do that, you're personalizing the message, which I think is absolutely critical.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
And by the way, I just noticed a few comments here saying, this one came from Kat. We're a small team, and Kat Meyer writes, marketing is sales enablement at our company. And we've just been drafted to support customer satisfaction implementation teams as well. Like, such a huge theme about teams being stretched really thin. Oh, this is great. Somebody's putting a ladder up outside my window. I'm going to hit E, and then you do some filler, Scott, for a second.
I'll just start juggling or something. Um, all right. So this, I think Kat has a great question, and we'll wait for John to get back here. But this is certainly a theme that I'm seeing across sales teams, across marketing teams. And this is this idea that everyone now has more on their plate. You now just have this whole other purview that you have to worry about that you didn't before. Um, I guess, John, what would be your advice when all of a sudden, top down, it comes and says, "Hey, here's a whole other slew of people that you have to worry about now, and you're in charge of their sales enablement and success." Um, what it, what do you do when you've just now opened up this whole new realm and maybe don't have the resources to fully support it?
Yeah. Just do fewer
Tough
things
question.
better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good
it's
answer.
about focus and avoiding peanut butter and avoiding trying to do everything for everybody. Figure out what's the one or two most important things that you can do and
Mhm.
just really nail it. And if you do it the right way, it should demonstrate ROI that gets more investment. And, like one of the meta trends that we're seeing in sales enablement is, show me the attribution, show me that what we're doing in the sales enablement team or out of that marketing team, now supporting all these other teams, is moving the needle in terms of revenue, win rates, average deal size, etc. And if you can track and measure that, that often leads to increased investment. So start small, focus it, demonstrate the ROI, grow from there.
Great advice. Great advice. And bleeds into another great question, which I'm going to get you to answer here. If you had to choose one, so again, we just said it's all about focus. If you had to choose one area to focus on in Q1 2021, would you advise your team at Highspot to look into changes to the customer experience, or would you look at sales training? Which one in your eyes is more important in this current environment?
I bet hard on the customer experience every time. Sellers are fast moving. They've got their finger on the pulse. I think training is critical, but if you only get to choose one, choose your customer.
I like it. I like it. Great advice. All right, we've got a ton of great questions coming in, but let's kind of keep it moving, and we will have more Q&A at the end.
Yeah, I thought what we could do is, just maybe we'll end the formal data here, and then I'd love just to jump into the meat of like Q&A with this great group of people. This importance around the customer experience that we just spoke about. What we saw across the board is that teams that are embracing customer experience as one of their top priorities are actually seeing collaboration across functions at their company be way better in terms of collab. And so sales and marketing friction, discuss. Account management and account executive friction, discuss. Customer success. These teams are all kind of by default organization and lined up for a little bit of challenge. The ones that are putting like customer satisfaction, net promoter score, satisfaction at the top of the scorecard that they all share, that's driving a sea change in terms of customer experience and how teams collaborate. And so I thought there was a lot of goodness in that for all of us.
Mm-hmm. I like that, and I love how Kat teed up this slide so perfectly. And that wasn't planned, everyone. Just so you know, Kat says thank you. That's a strategy we're taking. Many people are frustrated with us right now, but we've just put out a fantastic enablement kit, did a few trainings that got awesome feedback. Pretty sure more resources will result, which is awesome.
So maybe let's go to the last slide. I put my email there, and it's just sort of Q&A. We'll roll forward a little bit more. And, let's just listen to the folks we have here. Like what can Scott and I answer for you? What can we tell you about the research that came out about the state of sales enablement? What would help here?
Perfect. Let's dive into it. And yeah, definitely shoot Jon a note if you have more questions on this. You're on LinkedIn as well. Connect with Jon on LinkedIn, just in case we don't get to all of them as we go. All right. Amy Welsh has a great question. So, agree strategic alignment and exec sponsorship are essential. Respectfully disagree about the comment that it doesn't matter what org it reports to. Still a divide in mindset / frame of reference coming from marketing versus sales. Need to be closest to the beneficiaries of sales enablement and need to truly understand a day in the life for best results. When you hear that, which is more kind of a statement than a question, but what are your thoughts on that, Jon?
Well, I think Amy's right. And, what I've learned is that there's not necessarily a one size fits all approach here. The point that Amy makes that I want to deeply underline, and it is critical regardless of the reporting structure, is this notion around the day in the life for best results. Having been, when you're a marketer, one way or another, you're in the sales enablement business. I started marketing in the early 90s for Microsoft, and I spent my whole life trying to train the field to do demos. and we had really complex, gnarly software. And I'd do these big keynotes, and I'd get a CD-ROM, and I'd burn the demo onto the CD and send it around the world and some instructions. And I had no insight as to, is anybody using it? Is it helping them win more deals? Is it helping them against competitors? And that's where most marketers are, which is, I don't know, I don't have my finger on the pulse of like what it's like every single day to have tough questions be asked of you. So what we're doing now, like 20, 30 years later, maybe 2 years late, you never build a sales play without actual sellers that can, for real, talk about this is what's in it for me, and this is how it matters to my day-to-day life. And if you can't answer those two questions, it's not relevant, it's not real world, it's not going to win. And so if it reports into sales, you're going to need a sales frontline account executive to tell you if the stuff is good or not. If it's in marketing, the same is true. And they need to be day-to-day partners on making it great and making it win. And enablement teams often then act as a bridge between functions at companies, between account management, services team, the marketing team, and the sales team. All of that needs to be stitched together now in ways that it didn't have to be before. And enablement plays a big job to make that happen.
Yeah, I think that's a great answer. And that answer to me kind of underscores this fact of how incredibly lucky we are to be so backed up by sales technology and have these platforms now that can help us with this. Couldn't imagine burning a demo onto a CD and physically sending it out. So I think for me, it just underscores like, get in there, understand your technology, use it to its full advantage, because we haven't had this luxury for all that long. And I think you said the technology came like almost just in time as things like, COVID unfortunately have happened. All right. The questions just keep coming, Jon. They can't get enough of your brain right now. Here's a good one. Gildardo Garcia. Gildardo, thank you for the question. What's the best strategy to get started with sales enablement today? Don't have sales enablement, it sounds like. What's like step 1 and 2 in your eyes?
Yeah, and I'll give you step 1 and step 2 and a pointer to some resources. Step 1, build a charter. Sounds obvious, but most teams have sales enablement by accident and not sales enablement by design. Getting really clear on what's the mission, the purpose, and the outcomes that you want to drive is job 0. And then step 2, it can't be broad speaking. I mentioned this earlier. Where we see the most success is you pick one or two top initiatives for your company that the chief sales officer cares about, laser in on that and make that happen. Everything else is kind of noise, because that's going to pave the way for impact on the front line, similar to what we were talking about before. Now, we have a community which is called Sales Enablement Pro. And literally the website address is salesenablement.pro. And it's vendor agnostic, so it has nothing to do with vendors, and it has 100% to do with where to get started on sales enablement. There's podcasts, articles. There's a brand new certification course on, hey, I'm just getting started in sales enablement. Where do I start? And so some great resources for you there, Gilberto. Thank you for the question.
Definitely check out Sales Enablement Pro. I'll do a quick my 2 cents on that, and I'm pulling this from back when we were trying to build this function out at a company I was at before. Sales Hacker, brand new, small marketing team. Sales needed more enablement. We started, yes, with like a charter. It's like, what are we responsible for? And then second was just diving in and interviewing every account executive we had and starting to interview as many customers as we could. That was kind of our first thing. And we kind of learned what people wanted as we went from there. So that's a good way of just diving right into it. All right. So here's a good one. I really like this one. Maggie, great question. How are you seeing enablement leaders modifying their training strategies to accommodate Zoom fatigue, work from home distractions, and a lack of continued engagement? I've been trying online training through our LMS, switching up programs so that they're shorter over a few weeks instead of an hour Zoom session, and scaling enablement to our sales managers. But I'm running out of ideas. So how to keep people engaged when, it's cliche, but unprecedented, such a weird time for everyone right now. How have you modified your internal training to account for COVID in this new world we find ourselves in?
Oh boy, Maggie speaks great truth, and it's one that we're all working through. I'm not sure there's a silver bullet answer. I do think continue to change it up, get connected with other sales enablement professionals at other companies and learn what they're doing and just borrow and scour. That sales enablement
Mm-hmm.
Pro is a great community for that. There was a best practice set of podcasts around how to keep distance enablement interesting. Always experiment, put your learners to work. And so sometimes the sales enablement team doesn't have to give the sales enablement session. Find 3 AEs, make them do it, make it short, mix it up. Another one that is great is connection to executive leadership at the company. It is a big crowd pleaser in terms of keeping things interesting, where, think of it as an ask me anything or a fireside chat. Like, what's going on? I want to be connected with the leadership of the company. Bring customers in to talk and have them tell you, why we chose you, why we didn't choose you. And so there's a ton of these ideas where you just got to keep mixing it up, keep it short. But I think that point that I misquoted from the Harvard Business Review, like, make it real world. Like, if it's not
Yes.
connected to the actual business that you're on the front lines doing this week, it's not relevant. We don't have time for it.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll just second. I think that was excellent advice. The only thing I'll add on top, which is kind of what you said anyway, but I find it's easiest to engage people through stories. So go find some very interesting real world stories that just happened and have a new team member who just went through that, share that story with the whole organization, and it can be quite impactful. It's like learning, but it doesn't feel like learning. It feels like story time that everyone's kind of interested in. And don't make it too polished as well. People want to see the whole the real story of what happened.
Yeah, we just launched a storytelling initiative at our company where we're learning the art of storytelling, and
That's
it's
cool.
critical for every single person that's customer facing to be able to just whip them out, keep it short, keep it interesting. Journey to the hero. I love that point.
Yeah, yeah, that's great. Yeah, you can simultaneously teach people how to storytell, so they're better storytellers, so that people will be more engaged. It's kind of meta level storytelling. I love it. Okay, here we go. Without fail, we usually get someone asking about KPIs, so important. So, what are key metrics for the sales enablement team to be measuring success? And Amy just adds, win rates and ASP are lagging indicators, and sales enablement does not have direct impact. What are some leading indicators or KPIs that can be attributed to sales enablement efforts and are measurable?
Yeah, I think there are 2 to 3 really good areas of exploration here. One of them is content usage and adoption by your reps and by the prospects. So, make sure that you have a platform to understand whether or not the content is being used on the front line, and get the optics or the telemetry into how the prospect does it. Like in our world, we can have 20 data sheets, and I can literally track, and I do this every week, how many reps are using those data sheets or case studies, and how many times were they shared with prospects, and how many times did the prospect even bother to open it. And then I can track, is the sales enablement that we're doing and the content we're providing adding value on the front line or not? And if it's not, we got to change up our game. I never had those optics before. So there's content adoption, not only by your field, but that same content being used by the prospect, I think is really key. The second one is that I'm seeing a lot right now is around sales training and coaching. And the nuance here is, how do you balance activity-based KPIs? We trained 50 people and they all sat through a Zoom call, through actual forward-looking capabilities. And, like if you can, for example, say, we are doing a new approach on value selling and we're going to start to talk about the product this way. And then you can use things like, engagement intelligence and drill into what are your reps saying on the phone, and can I pick up and hear and listen? What we train for is now actually being used in the field. That's a little bit more of a leading indicator, hopefully, around being able to land things at scale. It's also, by the way, and this is a little blunt, go find out the single top 2 or 3 metrics that the chief sales officer really cares about, and ladder up to those directly and break it down and make sure it's not activity based.
Yeah, I like that. Great advice. That last one is find what the chief sales officer or the company as a whole is. What are their three things they're focused on, and find a way to tie into their great advice, kind of no matter what you're doing at an organization. And this idea of information retention is a great one to try and track. Yeah, I love it. All right, let's do one more question, and then we'll kind of wrap this up. This is a good one from Charles Moss. Okay, so how effective is using sales enablement resources on strategic go-to-market project support, i.e. sales plays, design and rollout, account planning, sales playbook, design and rollout, versus the more traditional and tactical, which he's talking, to keep the lights on stuff, that is seller onboarding, sales kickoff support, sales enablement platform support. What should be the breakdown of time in your eyes?
Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you for that. And we tend to see two buckets of sales enablement focus. Number one is what I'll call foundational. Sellers need to be onboarded. You have to do a sales kickoff. You have to have a basic level of training and certification on your company knowledge or how you do your sales workflows. It's foundational. We don't get to do anything else until we've poured the foundation. So that's got to happen. And then the second category or bucket is strategic initiatives. Launching the new product, doing a strategic cross-sell, shifting from single product to solution selling. And how do we really do that? And so I don't think you can do strategic initiatives effectively unless you have a base level foundation that's in place. Sales enablement used to really be pretty tactical, but at many companies, it's becoming pivotal and strategic to make the bucket number two things come to life. And that the secret sauce there is the ability to bridge across functions at the company that are involved in the go-to-market to make it win, because those initiatives tend to be multidimensional and not just sales only. And they're the only people at the company that I think can really pull off and land a strategic initiative. You got to have a little bit of the foundation in place, though.
Yeah. It almost sounds like we may be seeing more role specialization in sales enablement very soon. I feel like just like we saw with sales and a lot of marketing roles, it feels like maybe sales enablement will almost break off to foundational and then more strategic. We maybe some fortune telling there. We'll see if it comes to light. But Jon, thank you so much for all the insight. You are an absolute wizard at this stuff. And thank you, the community. I'm always so impressed by the level of thoughtfulness in the questions and the engagement. Truly, it makes it so much more fun when you guys come like this and show up in such a big way. So thank you so much. And Jon, once again, best way to connect with you is LinkedIn or shoot you an email.
Yeah, go for it. Love to provide pointers to more information, whatever we can do to help as we go through this really awkward, weird time together. Delight to be with you, Scott. Delight to be with the community. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, everyone. And do go make sure you check out Sales Enablement Pro if you want to continue to learning on this topic. There's so many good resources that you guys have. So thank you all. Have a fantastic rest of your week, and we'll see you again soon.